Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City of Casa Grande City Council meeting. The first couple items on our agenda are our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand and join me. And welcome to the podium, Pastor Romeo Leo, Passion Church. Pastor, welcome to tonight's meeting, and thank you.
Yeah, again, my name is Romeo Leal, lead pastor of Passion Church. Mayor, appreciate the opportunity, councilmen and women, to be here and to open this meeting up in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Very important, so I appreciate it. My prayers usually last about 10 minutes, but for the sake of this meeting, I'll reduce that down to less than a minute. So let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you in the name of Jesus to thank you, Lord God, for this opportunity, for this beautiful evening that you have given us. Father, I pray for every decision maker, every voice, every influencer in this place, Lord God, that every decision, Lord, will be one that ultimately glorifies you, Lord God. I pray, Lord, that this city, this great city of Casa Grande, Lord, will be a light that continues to shine bright in this dark world. Father, I pray that everything that is done in this place, Lord, will be opened up for your name's sake. Father, I pray blessings over every man and woman in this place. Lord God, that your anointing will be upon them. Lord, that their hearts will be postured towards you. Father, I know it is a heavy burden, Lord, to lead this city. But I pray, Lord God, that as they rely completely on your strength, Lord, that the work that is necessary on a daily basis will be one that is light. Father, I pray peace over every person here. Lord God, that every decision that needs to be made, Lord God, will not feel burdensome, but they can ultimately trust that your way and your will be done. So we praise you and we glorify you in the mighty name of Jesus. And everyone said, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Pastor. Thank you, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Gloria, let the roll call show that all council members are present.
So noted.
Minutes for our C1.
There, with the minutes, we have one set of minutes from the City Council regular meeting minutes from February 16th that we need to accept as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of February 16th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That was an aye for me, too, by the way. Claims against the city, D1. Matthew?
Mayor McFarland, I move to accept and pay the claims as presented.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, claims are approved. So moving on to the meeting agenda approval, item E. Larry, any changes from staff? Yeah, none, Mr. Mayor. Council, anyone?
From on J1.
Pardon me?
Go ahead.
All right, so I don't have any changes, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented.
So moved. Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the meeting agenda is approved as presented. Item G is consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote of the council. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda item and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Does anyone have anything you want to remove? Yes?
Mayor, no, I don't have anything to move. I move to approve.
Are there any changes?
No, I just, Jeff wanted to move to approve.
Oh, okay.
I will just say that they have good food. We need them in our city.
And they have a drive-through.
I have,
Yeah.
I have a motion on the floor to approve if there's no changes, if anybody doesn't want to take it off.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Lavender,
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, the next item on our agenda is the award of contracts. The first item is I-1. It's resolution number 5281. Mr. Lewis?
Good evening.
Good evening.
With the mayor's permission, I would like to present the next two items, both I-1 and I-2
Please
together,
do.
if that's okay.
That'd be great, thank you.
So this evening, we're here to ask permission from City Council to authorize us to move forward with a grant application process with the Arizona Department of Transportation through their Aeronautics Division. These planning grants, one for our airport master plan update and one for the drainage master plan, which is an associated study with that master plan, both through the Arizona Department of Transportation. We are eligible for these grants through their annual capital improvement program, and if approved, we'll be able to come back to you with a contract to actually execute those studies, and you'll have an opportunity to approve those at that time. So this is just to move us forward through the grant process. Both grants, the one for the airport master plan is $450,000, and then the city's portion of that is 10%, which is the percentage with most ADOT grants. That's $50,000. And for the drainage study, it's $225,000 of grant, and then $25,000 is the city portion of that. So again, we will come back to you with authorization for contracts to actually get the spending authority for those projects. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Kevin, if I may, if I can give a little more of a backstory on some of that, just so everybody's aware. ADOT handles all the federal funding for airports. So, and we haven't been eligible for ADOT funding or federal funding since we've been under the requirement of the skydiving. So this is the first chance we've actually had to get some grant money for the airport, probably in what, 3 years?
And technically, we're still not eligible, but ADOT thinks we've done enough to meet that threshold.
ADOT's granting us the ability to do this, so. And so, anyway, this is a great opportunity, because we actually have to have the airport master plan updated and the drainage study even before we go back to FAA to get additional funding. So these are, we got to do this.
Boy, they're healthy grants.
They're good grants, yeah.
That's great.
Does anybody have any questions on it?
No.
Good job, Kevin. All right, so we'll take one of these at a time. We'll take the resolution number 5281. Gloria?
Resolution number 5281, a resolution of the council, the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, ratifying the submission of a grant application to the Arizona Department of Transportation Multimodal Planning Division, authorizing the city manager to accept grant funds from the program in an amount up to $450,000, authorizing the city manager to execute a grant agreement, authorizing the city finance director to accept and disperse funds as necessary, authorizing to transfer a budget authority, and authorizing other actions in support of the grant.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of resolution number 5281 as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, the next one was the part 2 here. This is the airport drainage study. So, Gloria, can I get a resolution 5282, please?
Resolution number 5282, a resolution of the council, the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, ratifying the submission of a grant application to the Arizona Department of Transportation Multimodal Planning Division, authorizing the city manager to accept grant funds from the program in an amount up to $225,000, authorizing the city manager to execute a grant agreement, authorizing the city finance director to accept and disperse funds as necessary, authorizing the transfer of budget authority, and authorizing other actions in support of the grant.
Mayor McFarland, I would move for the approval of resolution number 5282 as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next item on our agenda is item K, which is K1, consider approving the revised employee classification and pay plan. Mr. Barber?
Mayor McFarland and council members, we're here this evening to ask you to approve the revised employee classification plan, which reflects the recommendations presented a couple of weeks ago in the Employee Classification and Compensation Study Report, and the revised employee pay plan to be effective with a pay period that includes April the 1st. When I started working for the city a little over a year and a few months ago, I met with the city managers, you might guess, to determine what the priorities were that I needed to work on over the next period of time. And Larry pointed me to the city's strategic plan, and one of the items in the strategic plan said to develop a plan to have 100% of the benchmark job positions midpoint of the salary range to be competitive with the market. That basically meant it's time for a classification and compensation study to be conducted. And certainly it's been 13 years since the city did a comprehensive study. That's not to say that our plan wasn't maintained along the way, but during the lean times, it's difficult to maintain. So we embarked on that, and we secured the services of a consultant, went through the whole process, and that was culminated in our presentation 2 weeks ago. Matt Weatherly with Public Sector Personnel Consultants was here and presented that proposal to you. The results of his study are incorporated into really one document. You'll know that we have employee classifications, police officer, secretary, equipment operator, and we have a pay plan that has 104 ranges and 11 steps. Every employee is assigned to a position classification. Every classification is assigned to a range in the pay plan. So the critical document this evening is our revised employee classification plan. And what that document does is it takes all of the recommendations for the classifications that were presented 2 weeks ago and puts them in one document. It also includes whether or not the position is exempt or non-exempt under the provisions of the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act, or classified or unclassified under provisions of the city's personnel policy. So we're here with the presentation, and we talked about the market entities. We have 17 cities and in Pinal County are our comparators. Part of the discussion 2 weeks ago had to do with the issue of cost of living in those comparator cities, and per your direction, Matt Weatherly did some work, and we reported that to you and presented that to you in relationship to whether that makes a significant difference or not. Hopefully that answered your questions about that. So the report to the council this evening reflects, just like we told you before, that the cost of implementing this annualized represents about $1.1 million plus salary-related fringe. If you accept our recommendation and implement for the pay period including April 1st, there'll be 3 months of impact in the current budget year. And as indicated, in advance of this year's budget, we made provision with the expectation that it would be implementing this during the course of the current budget year. So there's adequate dollars in our budget to be able to implement this. I wanted to explain very briefly, though, why there's a cost. We're moving classifications to different pay ranges. The costs come into play from the concept that positions are assigned a pay range. Employees in those positions are able to move through the steps in that pay range from step 1 through step 11 based on the annual performance evaluation. So a full performance evaluation, they would go from step 1 to step 2, 2 to 3 on an annual basis. So if you think about the fact, say we have 3 individuals who are equipment operators. Our equipment operator classification is currently assigned to our range 40. The recommendation is to reassign the equipment operator classification to range 43. If you have those employees, let's say 3 equipment operators, they're in that range. One of them has been here long enough only to be at step 2. One of them is at step 6. One of them's been around a while, it's at step 8. Okay, we in implementation are recommending that we give what we call range position ownership or range step ownership. They've achieved their position in the range based on their performance. The market is dictating a change from range 40 to range 43, and so we're going to recognize their attainment in their current range and move them to the step that they're in. So if they're in step 5 in range 40, they would go to step 5 in range 43, and that's where the dollars come in terms of implementation. If we didn't do that, we would enhance system compression, what we call compression. And that is everybody would be moving down in the pay range and all of our employees would be down here. There wouldn't be very much separation between how long people have been here in terms of tenure, which creates difficulties of their own. So we've always given this range positional ownership ever since we put this into place back in the, Bob, help me out, early 90s?
Yeah.
Something like that. So we recognize the employee has earned that position based on their performance, and the market comparison is dictating the higher range, so that's where the dollars come into play. This recommendation puts us at 80% of our classifications will be plus or minus 5% of midpoint market. So we're not quite at 100%, but again, we told you that we cap the number of ranges that we're moving. We've always had a cap as we move because the pay information can be a little funny from time to time, but we also have to make this as affordable and sustainable. So we put a 3-range cap, and we talked about that in our presentation 2 weeks ago, that as we maintain this system from year to year, theoretically at least, those things will take care of themselves. Now those less than 20% of classifications that are not at the midpoint, there's no guarantee in relationship to future years, because not only do we pay attention to the market, but we also pay attention to internal relationships, particularly if you think about a class family, and a good one to talk about is police, where we have police officers, corporals, sergeants, lieutenants, and so there's a relationship between all of those. So the market comes in, but we also pay attention to those relationships. So the market data has to be interpreted into our system. It doesn't come in totally unfettered, and that's what we paid the consultant to do, not based on who, but based on the what. So that's the recommendation that's coming before you tonight, again, to adopt the class plan, the classification plan, which reflects the recommendation of the consultant. And the pay plan doesn't change, but the current pay plan, I say we have 104 ranges, but when it was put into place on July 1st of 2019, all of the ranges that weren't being used were taken out for simplicity so that we didn't have 104 ranges. And we're doing the same thing. So we're maintaining the same structure, the same 11 steps. Nothing is changing in the pay plan except it reflects the recommendations that are in the classification plan. So that's the presentation this evening. I'll try to answer any questions that you have, and we'll go from there.
Mr. Powell?
Scott, I just was wondering, are the employees aware and cognizant of the chart and how it affects them, or?
Quite here, I'm sorry.
Are the employees involved in this, Scott? He was asking.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Powell.
I think the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
Well, I just wanted to make sure, and so we haven't had any pushback so far on anything that's,
We're giving them a raise, aren't we?
yeah.
And I would emphasize what Larry emphasized 2 weeks ago. This really kind of puts us back at a solid ground to move ahead. There are a lot of entities that are doing studies right now because things were so quiet and you couldn't do things for a while. So certainly this puts us in a position, I think, of current competitiveness and helps us move ahead.
Thank
Bob?
you.
I'm glad we're reaching an 80% level of being at midpoint or better. But the position, and I don't know how many there is, but if a position falls under that 3-range cap, maybe the survey calls for them to move higher. Is that addressed later in any way, or does that just remain there until the next time we do a similar survey?
To restate, the fact of the matter is the cap is there, and so there are classifications, and the documents we gave you 2 weeks ago show there are classifications in our system that are more than 7-10%. There were some that were 10, 15, 20% under the market. And again, some of those were some with the least amount of comparables. But we put the cap on, and then we move ahead. So as we update this next year and the year after that, the presumption is, at least in theory, is that it catches up.
Look at it again.
So it would be subject to be addressed later on at another year as it's looked at, or as a survey is done?
It continues to be addressed going forward, yes.
Okay.
Lisa?
You know, and I know you said, I mean, the employees do know, but of course there are employees that still, question and make, are concerned. But of course, I feel that this is a start. And at least it's getting us to that the majority of those, 80% at that midpoint. But I know there was a lot of concern with public safety, and because of their unique promotional opportunities versus other staff, and Bob, you were in public safety, so you might understand. I don't understand the whole system, but there were concerns where is it a firefighter or an engineer would be getting paid less than someone that was or a captain would be getting paid less because of the way the steps were. And, when someone's promoted or whatever. I wanted to see if that was addressed when you went through this classification study, and because that is something that's come up from our public safety folks, that this was happening, and, so, and it's been going on for years, I believe, right, Larry? I mean, so I'm just curious where we are on that.
It's not uncommon at all for family classifications in a class family to have overlap. That's not uncommon. We did pull some information down. There are some entities that have pulled public safety out of their regular pay plan, and they've constructed a public safety pay plan so that the police officer starts here and it goes here. A corporal starts here and goes here, then a sergeant. And the issue is, those are not 11-step pay plans, for sure. Because if they were, then you'd have, somebody making several $100,000 a year on the other side. So those things, that is not a part of our recommendation. We are not recommending going to separate pay plans for public safety. The overlap is created sometimes, and I think you're referring to situations, the overlap is created by a lot of factors. And we had some dynamics in one of our department that there was a lot of heartburn about the overlap. And one of the things Larry asked me to do very early on was, would you look at that and tell me why that happened? There's 6 separate, distinct factors that created that overlap. One of the greatest ones was turning on and off the merit program, because there's somebody always just on this side and just on this side. So if you've turned off the merit program and a year or two go by, then somebody could get a raise before somebody else. And those things happen. And sometimes, and there's a feeling like this is not a fair system. But the fact of the matter is that nobody didn't get what was promised to them. It's just a matter of the dynamics of somebody promoted faster than somebody else. We went from a half-step system. We had ranges A, AA, B, BB to a whole step system. We went from how many steps? 15 steps to 11 steps. So we did, on 7/119, the city did away with the half-step system. So the merit increase went from a full merit was 5% down to a little over 3%. So these are the dynamics over the course of time that happen along the way. And you can't go back when everybody was pretty fortunate. We didn't have to do furloughs or layoffs. You can't go back and try to make that right for all 430-odd employees that may be impacted. So we move forward. But this study, this recommendation, does not include anything of separating out public safety pay from our normal 11-step pay plan, and therefore, there's still some overlap between the classifications and a class family.
And I understand if that's your recommendation, obviously you did the research and everything, and that you're trying to stay within that same structure, but I just want to make sure that in the future, now look, I think, I'm glad we're here. It took us 13 years to get to this point, but I think moving forward, it's something that we should evaluate every year. Are we being competitive? We don't want to lose people. When we invest so much into employees, we don't want to lose them. So I do believe it's important to be competitive. But, if we have to tweak that structure and not keep it exactly the same, then, maybe we need to look at that. I support your recommendation, but I just think moving forward, it's okay for us to look at, I believe it's okay for us to look at, options of making sure we're competitive, making sure we're fair, making sure we're not losing people, and what are some of the other incentives, that we're offering. Maybe we are at a certain percentage to our competitive cities, but, where are we offering other things, to our employees that might not be, big, financial obligations, but is there something else that we're doing? I just worry that we're going to, I just want to make sure that we're competitive and we're not losing people. I mean, look, I'm all for this city. I love this city. We have a business here, but having a business, I know how it is sometimes to keep people at our business, employees. So, I do believe people, have a good thing going with the city. But I just want to make sure that we're being competitive, and I'm happy where we are with this, but I just want to make sure that we're continuing on a yearly basis or whatever to evaluate it. And the public safety thing is big. I mean, we don't want to invest in our police and fire officers and then move on to Chandler or Mesa or Gilbert or wherever. So I just wanted to make sure that was addressed, and we understand what happened at that time, and those employees understand, where we are with all of that too.
And Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Fitzgibbons, if I can just make one statement regarding that. We certainly will continue to keep an open mind and have dialogue. I know the council is aware that, at least from my perspective, we felt going into this process that we needed to create a program and a system that is both financially stable, as well as that can be sustained over the long period of time. And I know the council has been well aware, and the objective of us maintaining a competitive pay system is something that's very important to the council. But at the end of the day, we also have to consider the financial condition and the revenue streams that we're generating on an annual basis and the like. And we have, at least in my opinion, systematically attempted to take on one of the challenges annually. For example, Mr. Barber talks about the July 1st, 2019 change of the pay scale. We were trying to address issues there. Again, this year, we're simply trying to establish a new foundation within the comp and class system. And so we are always open to having dialogue, but from my perspective, and we want to be competitive. We want to ensure that our employees are being paid fairly, but we also are going to be considering the overall financial obligation of the system as well. That was one of the goals that we established as we made this recommendation that we did to the council tonight.
Thank you.
Donna, you had a comment?
Just a couple quick comments. Scott, you had said that we're at 80%. Obviously, we'd love to be at 100% for our employees. And Larry said a key word just now, that this is a foundation. And so I understand that, we have to start someplace. And I think this is a good starting point. I will say that, when we talk about keeping people and retaining employees, we look at our incentives. We know that we have, benefits for employees. We have some other incentives. First thing that comes to mind is police department. There's a program where they can take home cars after they're here a certain amount of time, those kind of things. We invest a lot in all of our employees, and so we have to be fair to all of our employees. I guess I have to go back and based on something that Lisa had just mentioned. So I know that there's going to be some overlap, and I know the county had to deal with this, several years back. So whether it's police, fire, whoever. If there's overlap, if I am a supervisor, and Jeff works for me under me, is there an opportunity for him to make more money than me as a supervisor? I guess the bottom line is,
Everything is possible in theory. From a practical perspective, it's likely not going to happen.
okay,
The fact of the matter is that if you think about public safety, they have the most formal promotional structure, and working through established curriculum and what have you. So this idea of progressing through the ranks, there are circumstances where someone can promote more quickly than someone else and be closer. Where you end up with the problem is this issue of exempt and non-exempt, where we have individuals who are supervisors that do not get overtime, and others that have, in the fire department, actually have overtime built into their schedule, and other overtime they work. So the bigger problem for us is at the upper end of the scale, where we have the possibility, frankly, there's a possibility that line people could be making as much as a department director from the issue of overtime. So while everything is possible in theory, I can't think of a circumstance where that happens.
thank you.
Mr. Powell?
Just one more comment. I remember when we were doing this back at the end of the 90s, the same type of thing, trying to be fair to find out what's being paid out in the market, and even with some of the corporations around us. And I think this, you've done quite a job on it, and I think there were some really good questions that were asked that you've answered well, and I just want to say I think you get a pat on the back for putting this together, and I think their employees can much better understand why they get what they get when they're able to look at this. So.
Any other questions from the council? Scott, thank you. I think all of us appreciate the work that your department's put in this, and Larry's staff's work, so thanks to all of them. All right, then no other questions or comments. Do I need a motion on this? Are we approving it tonight? We do. Okay, so I'll need a motion to approve the approving the revised employee classification and pay plan.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Gloria, I'm going to get a roll call vote on this, please.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes,
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right. Moving to our public hearings then, we have item L1, and that is an annexation of 1,061 acres. I think we've seen this piece of property before.
It's increased to 1,062 acres.
Oh, okay. It does say plus or minus. So
Right.
yes.
We definitely went on the plus on that. So this request is for a public hearing for the annexation of 1,062 acres generally located south of Maricopa Casa Grande Highway between Burris and Bianco Road. You can see it highlighted in green there. So a little bit about the annexation process. This area needs to meet certain criteria and with the Arizona revised statutes. So this area is a logical and appropriate annexation area in regards to the current boundary of the city of Casa Grande. The area meets all legal requirements for annexation as set forth in the Arizona revised statute. Blank petition and associated annexation map were filed with Pinal County Recorder's Office on February 4th. At this time, the council is only being asked to conduct a public hearing on the proposed annexation. This public hearing is conducted in compliance with the ARS statutes. To hold a public hearing within the last 10 days of the 30-day wait period that begins with the filing of that blank petition. So just giving you a background on the future steps, the petition signatures can be obtained from the owners of the land proposed for the annexation once the initial 30-day wait period has elapsed. That would be on the 6th of March. After signatures are collected, the annexation ordinance will be scheduled for council consideration. First reading we're intending to hold on April 5th, with the second reading followed on April 19th. The 30-day cure period will end on May 19th. So when doing the annexation, it requires that the city annexing the area adopt a zoning classification that permits densities and uses no greater than those permitted by the county at the time of the annexation. So staff is proposing that the annexation be initially zoned as urban ranch. A zone change from urban ranch to general industrial will be processed concurrently with this annexation. It's actually going to Planning Commission on the 6th, this Thursday. Do I have any questions in regarding this annexation?
Anyone? Good job of describing it, Joe.
Thank you.
Mr. Powell?
I think we're going to surely benefit from having this annexed into the city and being able to be used now.
That northern boundary is the
Yep.
Union Pacific Railroad, so. Yeah, no, that's great. Okay. No further discussions, then this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open it up for public comment. If anyone would like to approach the podium, give us your name and address. Any comments you might have on this annexation proposal? Okay, seeing no one, then I will close the public hearing. And there's no action needed on this, correct? Okay. Okay. All right, well, we've had public hearing number 1. Next item on the agenda is L2 then, another public hearing and another annexation. Joe?
All right, a little deja vu for this one, just a different location.
Same rules, different location.
Right. Same dates and everything, so you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. You heard it all before. So this request is for a public hearing for the annexation of about 45 acres, generally located on the southeast corner of Thornton Road and Peters Road. You can see highlighted in red there. This is across the street from the Lucid facility.
So Joe, before you leave with that map.
Sure.
So the yellow is the city's boundary?
That's correct.
Okay, so right now it's not in the city boundary, and that's what we're pulling in, right?
Yeah, and the parcel to the north that's actually in the city is partially in the city and partially in the county right now as well. So you can see there's a little square there too that's owned by the Skid, our Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Right.
And then the lower one's owned by...
that was one we did last year, right? Or almost, is it 2 years ago?
No, this would happen a couple of years ago. We annexed the 80 acres
to the south
on the Lucid side, and then we annexed 160 acres down south of it.
Okay.
About a year ago.
Okay.
2 years ago.
Thank you.
So again, this area is a logical and appropriate annexation area in regards to the current boundaries. This area meets all legal requirements for the annexation. Blank petition was also filed on February 4th, and at this time it's just a public hearing that's being requested. There's not an additional zone change associated with this annexation at the time, so it will be zoned in as urban ranch. So again, petition signatures may be obtained from the owners once the 30-day wait period's over. The signatures are collected. After the signatures are collected, the annexation ordinance will be scheduled for council consideration. Again, those dates are tentatively shooting for April 5th for the first reading, the second reading on April 19th, with the 30-day cure period ending on May 19th. And I mentioned that would be zoning this urban ranch for the time being. Questions on this one?
Anyone? Staff, or not staff, council? Latino council members, this is a public hearing, so I'll open the floor to the public. If there's anyone here who would like to speak on item L2, please come forward and state your name and address, and we'll let you speak. Okay, seeing no one rush up to the podium, then I will close the public hearing, and we'll move on to the next item. That is item L3.
I was sure that was going to bring some public.
Another public hearing. This is to consider an ordinance and a couple of a resolution and a couple of ordinances.
All right.
So there's some action we need to do on this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the city of Casa Grande is requesting a zoning code text amendment to ensure that the city has a consistent and implementable code and remove or remedy any conflicting code regarding the allowable height of flagpoles. So currently the code has conflicting information when it comes to the height of flagpoles. So this code text amendment is intended to simplify the flagpole standard. So the first section we're going to amend is section 103A1.c of the sign code, and it will read, flagpoles in residentially zoned districts shall not exceed 20 feet in height. Flagpoles in all other zoning districts shall not exceed the maximum building height of the zone district which they're located in. So you can see that we were at 35 feet and we're just making it compatible with the zoning height. And then we have another section that's contradictory, 1752.250A.4. It says height limitations shall not apply to, number 4 is flagpoles, so we are going to delete that from the code. So we only have it in one location. The height of flagpoles is consistent throughout. So in regards to notification, the city did meet or exceed all requirements. We did get one call inquiring about existing non-compliant flagpoles. We were able to work through that. If it's considered legal non-conforming, it can stay at the same height it is. It can't increase or be changed. So Planning Commission on a 6-0 vote recommend the mayor and city council approve DSA 20-00190, the proposed code text amendment amending the allowable height of flagpoles in the zoning and sign codes. Any question? Yes, sir.
Mr. Powell? Just curious, schools and governmental offices and those type of things, are they held to what height?
Schools, I believe, are exempt from a zoning code
That's
standards.
what I was wondering, yeah. Okay.
Donna?
Just inquiring minds want to know, I had somebody this afternoon ask if this overrides any HOA requirements, or, I guess that some of the HOAs in town were talking about that they didn't allow flagpoles.
So they'd be separate issues. So the HOA would have control over their own standards. Our city, they'd still have to meet the city standards regardless if the HOA allowed them additional height. We would not permit it.
Okay, thank you.
Can an HOA actually deny a flagpole?
Yeah, they could set their own standards for that.
That was the case, I think.
Okay. So I do have a question. So, for example, an industrial area, the building is 35 foot tall, and the height restriction's 50 feet for that zoning area. How tall can the flagpole be?
It could be 50 feet now.
Okay, all right.
So,
Thank you. Because before we were restricted, right? It was 35 feet, which
yeah,
some buildings were
the
taller
previ-
than their flagpole.
The previous was for all zone districts,
Okay.
other than residential, were 35 feet.
Okay. And when you say legal non-conforming, if a flagpole exists and isn't conforming to our code because it was a model home, for example, and it's been there for 10 years, it's probably going to stay there.
If it's been determined to be non-conforming, legal non-conforming, then it is allowed to stay in that location.
Okay. Thank you.
And Mayor, if I could, just a couple of clarifications on that, because, you know, the term that the planners use and we use is legal non-conforming. So it always depends on whether it was legal when they first put it up. We do have another provision in our code, though, that if something has been there for more than 5 years and the city should have known about it and hasn't taken any action to stop it, it becomes a legal non-conforming use, notwithstanding that it wasn't legal at the time.
Well, we have a few, like old model homes, for
We do.
example, that are around.
And another piece of that is, there's another section of our sign code that actually allows some of these model home complexes to have higher flags than what would otherwise be in the zone district during the time that they're selling. So that's why you'll see sometimes, you know, the larger flags in the model home complexes. And the last component is, and I have to look, Councilmember McBride, but HOAs generally have the ability to limit things in there. Arizona does have a statute that prohibits them from limiting certain display of the American flags, but I have to look at the statute to determine, you know, if it applies to HOAs as of a certain date, like a number of our things do. But a new HOA today would be subject to that statute.
And just for clarification, Brett, when you said about the model homes, the flags can be, those are temporary, right? Those are approved
Correct.
as temporary, okay.
Yeah, but if they're still there, now they're permanent.
Yeah.
That's the
But
problem.
when they-
That's not a problem per
Right.
se, but it's an issue. It can be and has been an
That was
issue.
kind of my question, and we can do what if all night, but just one more on the model home. Because, is there a time limit on the model home temporary use? Because I think that's what we're running into in some places.
Sells as model.
Yeah, and I'll have to look at planning, but as long as they're using it for their sales, right? And you'll see that most of them, and I think planning department has done a pretty good job lately of trying to work with them and make them understand that they have to remove the flag. So for example, out in the neighborhood that I live in, Brown Homes was selling. There was a great flag. I actually loved it because I love to hear it just whipping in the wind while I was walking around the neighborhood. It was lit. And then one day it was gone because they had shut down the model home complex. So we do have to be diligent on those, but they do put that as part of their temporary use, that they have to remove the flagpole upon ceasing the use as a model home and sales complex.
Correct.
Yeah, we had some issues with people going out of bank, you know, going out of business and a whole bunch of other stuff anyway, but, okay. Thank you. All right, so this is a couple of different ones. Do I need to handle each one of them separately?
The first thing we have is it is a public hearing.
Right.
Because of the zoning code, but we will handle, the public hearing can really be one, because it really only has to be for the zoning code.
Okay.
And then we will handle each one of the items separately.
Okay, thank you, Brett. All right, so item L3 is a public hearing, so I will open the floor for any comments on this change. If anyone is here who would like to speak, please approach the podium, state your name, address, and you'll have 3 minutes. All right, so if you don't want to take 3 minutes, that's okay. So then I'll close the floor for the public hearing, and we'll move for an ordinance, Gloria, or first ordinance, which is the 1397.17.52.
Ordinance number 1397.17.52, an ordinance of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending Title 17, Section 17.52.250, height requirements of the City of Casa Grande Municipal Code pertaining to the height limitation of flagpoles, establishing the severability of the various sections of the ordinance, and establishing an effective date.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of ordinance number 1397.17.52 as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, the next item under L3 is resolution number 5283. Gloria, can I get a resolution number, please?
Resolution number 5283, a resolution of the mayor and council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, directing as a public record that certain document entitled the April 2021 Amendment to the Sign Code of the City of Casa Grande.
Mayor, I move for the approval of the resolution number 5283.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, the last item under L3 is considering ordinance number 583.07, amending the section 103 of the sign code. Gloria, can I get a resolution number, please? Or ordinance number, excuse me.
Ordinance number 583.07, an ordinance of the City of Casa Grande relating to the amendment of Section 103 of the sign code of the City of Casa Grande concerning the height of flagpoles, adopting the April 2021 amendment to the sign code of the City of Casa Grande by reference, preserving the rights of duties that have already matured and proceedings that have already begun thereunder, establishing the severability of the various sections of the ordinance and establishing an effective date.
Mayor McFarland, I move to approve ordinance number 583.07 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. The next two items are kind of the same project. Can we use them both, one public hearing for both, or do we have to do two separate public hearings?
For L4 and L5?
Yeah.
They need to be separate hearings because they are separate property owned and zoned. Even though they're going to potentially be the same owner, they have to be separate public hearings.
Okay.
And separate actions.
Okay. All right, well then, let's begin with L4.
Yeah. So this is the Florence and Ash R2 zone change. Hilgart Wilson and LKY Development are requesting a zone change from garden and light industrial, I-1, to single-family residential, which is R2, for approximately 26 acres of land generally located on the northwest corner of Florence and Ash. You can see the project site shown below. So this request is to allow for the development of 112 single-family residential lots with a gross density of 4.3 dwelling units per acre. The proposed development has a certificate of assured water supply from ADWR and is able to subdivide the property to achieve the proposed lot count. The applicant has provided a conceptual lot layout. A key aspect of the lot layout includes two roadway connections to the residential to the north. The roadway connections are critical to creating a development that is linked to the existing downtown area, and in doing so will support, benefit, and help revitalize that area. Another feature shown on the plan is the potential for the city to place a roundabout intersection at Florence and Ash that's intended to create an entry point into the downtown district of the city. So staff feels that this is a good opportunity to provide workforce housing near the downtown and the industrial portion of the city. You can see the conceptual layout here and the two connections on Washington and Mercedes. Again, it's conceptual, so they can move those potential connections. It also shows a schematic design of
And
the
Joe,
potential roundabout.
the next project, is that the piece to the left there?
It is.
Okay,
it'll be
so
the
that's gonna be a
single-family.
multifamily piece right there, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
So when looking at the review criteria for the zone change, we look at that the proposed use shall be in conformance with the general plan. It's currently in the community center area, and we look at the following items: that the action is consistent with the city's general plan, including the goals, policies, and applicable elements. Among other items, this request supports the following goals. It's located in our Phase 1 growth area, which is our primary growth area. And then the zone district R2, the single-family residential, is appropriate in the community center land use category. A rezoning, second one is that a rezoning conforms to the general plan if it proposes land uses, densities, and intensities within a range of identified uses of the general plan. The request for the zone change to the single-family residential R2 with the conceptual 4.3 dwelling units per acres is an allowable and appropriate land use within our general plan. The third one is that the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at this time to meet the land use needs of the residents of the city. So this zone change will allow for new workforce housing that will be a catalyst to revitalizing the downtown area. Its location between downtown and the manufacturing corridor will benefit both of those areas. In regards to notification, the city met or exceeded all requirements. We did not receive any inquiries in regards to this project. The Planning Commission on a 6-0 vote recommend the mayor and city council approve the zone change request, DSA 20-00118, from garden and light industrial I-1 to single-family residential R2 with the following conditions of record. Provide a minimum of 2 roadway connections to the downtown street network, and then provide right-of-way dedication to accommodate potential roundabout at Florence and Ash intersection at time of platting. Do we have any questions?
And the roundabout's down in that lower right-hand corner?
Correct.
Okay. Which then connects into Florence and downtown, right?
That is correct, Mayor.
And then Ash takes you right over to the north side of.
So you're a mile away from all
So you have Daisy
Takes you
Brand,
right over to
Lucid,
Thornton Road,
LKQ,
Walmart Distribution, Daisy Brands, all that.
That's correct, Mayor.
Well, I'm very happy to see this plan come about and to fill up some of that empty space that's been there forever.
Yeah, this is
And the
great.
south side is starting to have a renaissance with the paving that was done and some of the other things, the park, whatever. So I think that's an excellent situation with what they plan to do here.
Is that going to be open area on the top there, or is that going to be just drainage, or?
Most, Mayor, most of that's intended to be retention areas. It flows that direction. There's also existing drainage ditch in that area, but most of that's intended to be open space retention areas.
Okay.
When I was a kid, going to fifth grade at South School there, they had a well pump that went, and I'd been reading about Huckleberry Finn, so I tried to fish in that. There was no fish in there, so that was my adventure.
All right. Any questions from council? Matt?
Just have a comment. This is to echo that great kind of renaissance project for our downtown and really spur life, our Life on Main project now maybe get some more traction because we're actually getting some new life integrating with the existing stuff that's been there. And I like how the developer had it connect to the existing roadways going north there. So really excited, and hits a lot of goals for us, workforce housing, and and Lisa and I specifically had a lot of conversations about workforce housing. It's like the city doesn't build housing, but we can sure help them to build this workforce type of housing. So I hope this helps them with this zoning and everything. Thank you.
Any other question? Yes, Bob?
Question about I guess the southwest corner of Florence and Third, that triangle that seems to be left out. What's the story on that, or what's to become of that?
It's currently, Councilmember Huddleston, it's currently actually owned by a different entity.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's been there forever, Bob.
As a separate piece of property?
Yeah, it just sits there, the triangle, yeah.
And just for what it's worth, there's quite a history on that little triangle there.
Where the wreck was?
Sorry?
Where the wreck was?
Yeah, and there's been multiple wrecks there. Pursuits coming coming into town, north into town, I guess, down Federal Route 1, I think that is, isn't it?
And then that brick fence across the road, they kept getting their fence knocked down.
And when they hit what will be the roundabout, they can't make the turn, and so they go right across that triangular piece of property and into the house that's there.
Well,
I don't know.
Now they'll hit the roundabout.
Well, that might slow them down. So I don't know if there's any possibility of the city buying that at some point? I don't know. It seems kind of sad we're doing all this with the roundabout and everything, and then that one little triangle remains on its own, but just comment. Other than that, I love this. I think it's the greatest thing to happen on that side of town in years. Looking forward to it.
Okay, this is a public
Mayor,
hearing.
Just really
Oh,
quick.
Lisa, I'm
And-
sorry.
And it's kind of just a
Go ahead.
ditto, but I did want to bring it up because this is something that we've talked about and in
Oh,
the
yeah.
general plan. You know, we know this is a strategic goal of ours. So I'm just so excited for us to diversify our housing options, and what a great place to do it. So, you know, a lot of walkable area. Hopefully the downtown will pick up a little bit. You know, the grocery store there, and if we get a couple of restaurants and everything. So I was just really excited to see this. So
Yeah,
good job.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you to the developer who's here in the room also.
Oh, good. Thank
You
you.
can wave your hand if you want. No?
Over here.
Okay, never mind.
Thank you.
Good job.
All right, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the floor to the public. If there was anybody here who would like to speak to the council on this item L4, they're welcome to come forward. Please state your name and your address, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
That's pretty tough for me. Good evening, Mayor, council members. It's been a while since I've been here to see you in person. It's nice to be back. Thankfully, the numbers are coming down enough that I felt comfortable. I've been vaccinated both shots now, so glad to be back here and make your life a little difficult again. I absolutely am in favor of this project as well. I've spoken with the developer on it at length and posted about it, and we've had discussions in my group, and everybody is excited because what's going to be so great about this is that they're a little bit smaller lots, a little bit less house will go on these, which will make it be a little bit more affordable. It's not going to be subsidized, but a little bit more affordable from everything I understand, and this is a perfect place for that. The projects you're going to hear next is going to continue the urbanization of this area a little bit here, which again will help downtown and points to the west. Some of these people may end up working at the new business right across the street. It's very possible that you probably all are aware of that will be opening soon. So I'm in strong support of this, and it's good to see all you again in person. Thank you.
Good to see you, John. You're out of your cave? All right, anybody else? Any other one like to speak to council? Okay, seeing none, then I will close the floor and the public hearing and call for an ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 1178.306.1. An ordinance of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending zoning ordinance 1178 and its subsequent amendments by changing the zoning from garden light industrial to single-family residential on approximately 26 acres of property generally located at the northwest corner of Florence Street and Ash Avenue, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of ordinance number 1178.306.1 is presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next item on our agenda is L5, another public hearing. This is to consider similar, well, next-door project to this project we just talked about. So, Joe, it's all yours.
All right, not getting rid of me yet. This one is the Florence and Ash Single Family for Rent, PAD. So Hilgart Wilson and LKY Development are requesting a zone change from garden and light industrial I-1 to planned area development for approximately 10.6 acres of land generally located on the northwest corner of Florence and Ash. You can see the location highlighted in yellow there. So a little background on it. In 2019, staff gave a study session presentation on this particular type of product, the single-family build-to-rent product. We outlined the challenges that the city code presented in entitling this type of product due to the fact that it's a little bit of a hybrid zone district between single-family residential and apartments. So like single-family, the dwellings are standalone, single-family and duplex units. They've got typically have private walled yards and patios. Like apartments, it's all on a single lot, multiple dwelling units offered for rent. Each dwelling unit is designed with a similar design aesthetic, so the project feels cohesive. And then it also provides common open space and recreational amenities for its residents. So staff narrowed down potential zone district that would allow for this type of product. It included the R2 district and the planned area development district. Each still presents certain challenges. So this request is actually for a PAD. So LKY Development is proposing, and now we'll go into a little overview of the actual proposal. So they're proposing a PAD to entitle this 10.6 acre property as a single family build to rent project. This is the first request of this type for the city. The request for PAD zoning does provide some flexibility. However, the residential product is difficult to completely align with the 2003 residential design standards for planned area developments. The project is anticipated to develop as a mix of unit types with 1- and 2-story detached and duplex units with 1 to 3 bedrooms. The conceptual land use plan provided shows a site layout with 116 units at an overall gross density of 11 dwelling units per acre. The specific site layout and design will be approved through a future major site plan submittal. So staff sees this request as a good addition to the nearby downtown area and believes that the project provides the potential to facilitate in that revitalization of the downtown area, particularly the southern portion. So when looking at the PAD review criteria, we look at the following items. They've all been covered in the staff report that was provided. Tonight we're just going to key on the 3 top ones. So the first one we're going to talk about is the relationship of the plan elements to the conditions both on and off the property. The proposed project is being submitted concurrently with the neighboring traditional single-family residential zoning of 112 units. Combined, the submittals will provide a good transition between the downtown area and the industrial corridor. You can see there's the R2 that we just looked at, and then the project that's being proposed for this particular piece. The next one is the relationship of the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property, or actually it's continuation. So one item that the applicant and the staff were unable to come to an agreement on was the required setbacks regarding the perimeter buffer, particularly in the case where the site abuts the industrial zoning district. So staff and the Planning Commission felt that the perimeter buffer area between this use and the industrial zone property should be 15 feet. The applicant is proposing a 15-foot setback to the structure with the ability to have covered and uncovered patios project within 10 feet of the property line. So staff believes that that 15 feet of setback to the patio and all other structures would provide a sufficient buffer to promote the healthy growth of landscape materials, creating a natural buffer between potential adverse uses. So staff will also evaluate future industrial proposals and, if necessary, impose additional buffer requirements on those proposals to ensure a proper buffer between the 2 uses. And you can see that's the location of the industrial where it is abutting the project and where we feel the 15 feet is necessary. So the next one we'll look at is conformance to the city's general plan. So the site's located within Community Center General Plan Land Use category. The Community Center Land Use category allows density up to 20 dwelling units per acre. The proposal is requesting 11 dwelling units per acre. The PAD document addresses many of the general plan policies as it relates to the infrastructure and mobility and spatial form and design. So these standards will further be analyzed at the time of site plan submittal. Staff finds that the request is in compliance with the general plan. And the following one, the last one that we'll talk about is conformance to the city's zoning ordinance. So this PAD is subject to the 2003 edition of the Residential Design Standards for Planned Area Developments. These standards cover various requirements such as open space allotment, front yard landscaping, housing product, lot sizes, and setbacks for the residential development. As previously mentioned, due to the nature of this project, certain design standards are difficult to achieve and not desired for the overall success and aesthetics of a project like this. The design standards do allow the Planning Commission and City Council to depart from those requirements if it can be demonstrated that the alternative standards proposed achieves the same goals of diversity, creativity, and sustainability sought for residential PADs. The PAD design standards provide 4 criteria to allow for possible exceptions. The applicant and staff believe that the following 2 exceptions apply to this request. First one is that a proposed infill housing development on a parcel of land between 5 and 50 acres that is typically surrounded by established residential neighborhoods may qualify for some departure from the residential design standards. The next one is more applicable probably, is that the development proposal is so unique that strict conformance with all the requirements of the residential design standards would be counterproductive to achieving the diversity, creativity, and sustainability sought in the PAD. So the following design criteria within the 2003 PAD residential design standards have not been adhered to due to the nature of the product that's being requested. That includes the single-family lot sizes, the setbacks, the number of floor plans and elevations, the covered patio, and some architectural detailing. In regards to notification, again, staff met or exceeded all required notification efforts. We did get one call this week from Daisy Brand, just inquiring, more interested in what's being proposed and if it would impact their facility in any way. So Planning Commission on a 6-0 vote recommend the mayor and city council approve the zone change request, DSA 2000118 from Garden and Light Industrial, I-1 to planned area development with the following condition. Revise the PAD guide to clarify no portions of the residential structure nor patios shall encroach into the 15-foot perimeter setback abutting industrial zoned or used areas. And do we have any questions?
I was going to ask if Daisy Brands had any comments, positive or negative.
No, their site's actually separated by another parcel in between this use and that. It was more of a question of whether this would impact, would they get calls or have concerns from neighbors if they moved in next to Daisy Brand. Daisy Brand tends to, I've never been aware of an issue or a problem that they've presented to the community. So there wasn't a whole lot of concern on either end. I think it was just more questions.
I was just curious, that's all. Thank you. Anybody else have some questions on this? Matt?
I had a question about the 15-foot setback, how important that is to the developer, and, you know, how they agree with that, because the 15-foot setback, the way I read it, would still apply to the actual living part, the indoor living part of the house, not just the patio. And then, if I'm not mistaken, on the other side of their boundary, there's gonna be another 15-foot buffer for industrial with trees, walls, vegetation. So, I mean, I don't know how detrimental it is to their business plan, because this is the first of its kind. People all over the state, and especially in this area, are clamoring to get this type of housing unit. And I don't want to be onerous to, especially the first person that's doing it, because I think we have those protections, you know, with the 15-foot setback on the other side of the wall as well. And it's up to them, you know, it's their product. They know what it is going into it. You know, that's what I'm wondering, you know, I mean, if they know what they're getting into, then, and they want to do it, I don't think it creates any safety hazards or anything like that. I think it's more nuisance type stuff for the residents. But again, the indoor living area is still agreed to be at that 15-foot, just not the covered patio, which people do use a lot for living, but then you've got the other 15-foot, so you're 25-foot from the edge of the patio to the industrial, and then plus they'll probably have even more, so. I don't know how important that, you know, you brought it up, so I don't know how important that was to the developer themselves, because, I mean, they own the land, they're trying to do something, revitalize downtown, and, I mean, how important is it?
Councilmember Herman, I'll let the applicant actually speak on his opinion on that. I can say that the staff evaluated it and felt that 15 feet would provide a better growing area for landscape. In the adjoining property, there's actually a 45-foot setback to any structures from industrial to residential.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, and we would evaluate whatever the proposed uses of that industrial, and also have the ability to impose additional standards to it during the review of their site plan or their proposal. So there are other mitigating instances that we could do.
It's actually
as well.
45 feet on that side, not 15.
Yeah, the 45 feet to the actual structures. Now,
Okay.
the uses that occur in that 45 feet aren't limited, but we would certainly evaluate that at time of any proposal to the adjoining properties, or to the north or to the west.
Anybody else? Mr. Powell?
You know, one of the unusual things is Pennell Avenue and Florence Street from Ash on down is the same street. It's exactly the same. When the town was built, they came in at an angle on Florence Street to the railroad. But if you can look right on here and you can see it at the top part, it's got the North Pennell Avenue, and then at the bottom is South Florence Street. And it's basically one street. It's not made into one street at this point in time, but it is a direct. And I know they've talked about maybe doing something about that to keep the traffic off of Cottonwood with the heavy trucks and that type of thing.
Okay, anybody on council have any other questions?
I do.
Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Joe, and this is these are rental properties, correct?
Councilmember Huddleston, that's correct. It's
Okay.
all on a single lot,
So it'll be
different unit types. And
it'll be managed much the same way as an apartment complex would be. Okay. Is this similar to what is coming along at Treckle and Cottonwood?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was just curious about those.
We've received a lot of interest over the past, probably started 2 years ago on this particular type of product, which led to that study session, and now we're actually starting to see those submittals come in.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the floor to public hearing on this project. If anyone was here would like to speak to it, please state your name and address, and try and keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you need a little more, we can always accommodate.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Cindy Paddock, Hilgard Wilson, representing LKY Development, the developer. Joe did a great job of outlining this very brand new product to the city, and again, I know that it has been an interest in coming to the city for several years, and LKY is really excited to be the first one to actually make an application. We think this location is just, has been noted by a number of the council members, just key in so many different ways to kick off some revitalization in downtown, some workforce housing, and hopefully provide some future housing for all the employment uses that are being developed west of here. As Joe noted, the only point of discussion we still have on this. In support of all the staff, they were great to work with on this. Again, there was lots of issues to discuss because, as Joe noted, it didn't really fit into any of the exact categories. The only issue was this 15-foot perimeter setback. We have looked at this. One thing to note is this is a conceptual site plan. There is no actual builder associated with this property yet. Basically, and Larry could speak to this, he's had lots of interest, probably not going to see a builder sign up until the zoning is approved. You can certainly understand that. So we're just trying to maintain maximum flexibility for this site plan for when a builder does come in, that they can continue to work with staff to massage the site plan as needed to make it work for them, as Councilmember Herman noted. You know, we don't really know exactly what they might be looking for at that point in time. So we did make a presentation at Planning Commission to allow a 5-foot encroachment with a potential covered patio into the 15-foot perimeter setback. Staff did not support that, and the Planning Commission didn't make that modification. We would suggest that again at the council. We'd be happy to see that modification be proposed and I would fine-tune that to allow a potential 5-foot encroachment with the patio into the 15-foot perimeter setback to be approved by staff at the time a formal site plan was submitted based on the site plan that was submitted. You know, we're all kind of looking at a crystal ball here, and we don't know exactly what it might look like. And it might be very obvious that it would be not a problem, or it might be very obvious that not anything that anyone would want. So to Councilmember Herman's point, you know, we'd like to have some flexibility here. But again, other than that, we're in support of this. We think that the 15-foot perimeter setback, it's not a deal breaker. Again, we're very happy to see this product get approved. We just think it would provide a little bit of flexibility for this very new and unknown product into the city. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
And Larry would be happy to answer questions as well.
Matt, go
I
ahead.
just thought of another one. I guess we don't know yet if it's going to be gated or not, or...
Customarily, these types of communities are gated, again, like an apartment complex. And again, it's a private community, you know, it has private streets, so they customarily are gated. I would be surprised if it's not, but I can't say.
Yeah, because the streets would be private.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you. Again, it's a public hearing, so the podium is open for any public comment. Does that mean you want to make a comment, John? Okay.
I was going to say, you were down to just one tonight, so I'm glad to see that.
There's 2 seconds left on the clock, so...
Good evening, Mayor and Council again. Thanks. I was going to say,
You're done.
I never get offered any extra minutes if needed. So just really quickly, I was also present at the Planning Commission meeting. There was lots of discussion on this 15-foot setback issue, as I'm sure you saw in your note from P&Z. At the meeting, when I spoke in support of the project in general, I left that up to Mr. Yount and the Planning Commission to battle that back and forth. But overall, I'm very excited for these kinds of projects to be starting to finally get into town. Councilmember Huddleston's correct. At P&Z this Thursday night, there will be the next project at Treckle and Cottonwood will come to this next phase, and then that will come to you for a zoning change as well soon. So, and there's a couple others in the rumor mill about this as well. So I'm excited to see these kinds of things that solves a few problems. You know, people just want this rather than a vertical apartment. It's the more popular thing right now. And like so many of the other products that have been before you recently, water's an issue. If they don't have a certificate of water supply, this is a product that's allowed in those parcels that don't have a cause. So we can get some good beneficial use out of it without having to worry about that for now. So I'm in support, and I hope you will be too. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, anybody else from the public like to speak? Okay, then I will close the public hearing. And Matt, did you want to propose something to this? Or how would we do that? Can
We'd have to make an amendment,
or relax something on it?
So probably the easiest thing to do, anytime you want to change it, the ordinance that is drafted currently has the condition as imposed by the Planning and Zoning Commission. My preference always is that if you want to make an amendment, we move the ordinance. And then once it's moved, you can move to amend the ordinance to make any changes that you would desire. In this case, the setback issue is in condition number 2. So we'd move to amend condition number 2, and depending on your preference on that, I can help you kind of draft that. We can work through the drafting of the language on that as well.
Okay, so Mayor McFarland would like to move approval of.
We need to read the ordinance though.
Oh, yeah.
I'll call for the ordinance, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 1178.306.2, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending zoning ordinance number 1178 and its subsequent amendments by changing the zoning from garden and light industrial to planned area development on approximately 10.6 acres of property generally located at the northwest corner of Florence Street and Ash Avenue, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor McFarland, I'd like to move approval of ordinance number 1178.306.2. And then you have to move amendment after, right?
So you really have two options.
Just
We're
remove
not
condition
following
number 2.
we're not following my preferred option, but that's okay.
No, but I can just move to approve it, and then I can move an amendment.
Right, you can move an amendment to your own, and it can be a friendly
Okay.
amendment as well, so, but.
I'll say as presented.
Second. And then now, if you desire, if
And now,
anyone
Mayor
desired to
McFarland,
make
I
an
would like
amendment,
to
it would be a good.
move an
time.
amendment to this motion to, as my lawyer would say, remove condition number 2 with the 15-foot setbacks.
So let me help you on just
Thank
making
you.
sure I
I think you still want the 15-foot setbacks. I think we want to allow the patio to be
encroachment of the
included.
patio.
The patio
The
for
patio to be
up to
included.
up to 5 feet is what I understood, correct?
Felt that that's the way the PAD is drafted right now.
Yeah, if the PAD is drafted that way exactly, then we can
Yeah.
just fully remove condition number 2. If the PAD doesn't have your 15-foot setback, you wouldn't be able to do that.
The PAD drafted right now allows for that 5-foot encroachment into that setback.
Then the amendment
So we just
becomes
eliminate the
super
restriction.
easy. We can
Condition
just
number 2.
remove condition number 2.
Didn't even need a lawyer for that one. But glad you're here, Brett.
But you have them, so.
Yep.
All right, so we have a motion and an amendment,
Who's on
We vote on the amendment
and I need a
first.
second.
Second. To remove condition number 2.
Yes.
And the second,
We have a second.
to vote on the amendment first.
Okay, so let's, Gloria, can I get a roll call vote on the amendment, please?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, now, we were going to vote on the actual motion for the,
Amendment.
As amended.
for the ordinance.
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
I have one comment.
Mr. Powell?
I just wanted to make one comment. I think one of the smartest things we did is with the wording of compatible, that new development need to be compatible with what's around them. I think this is a good fit. I don't think there's any problem with it. And if you were doing that in a different location, it might be otherwise for sure. But I think that this is compatible with where it's at and should fit in fine.
And let's find a builder to build this. All right, thanks to LKY and also to Wilson Hilgart tonight, so thank you. All right, that's it really for our agenda. We have one more item on the agenda, that is reports. So I will start with you, Mr. Lavender, if you'd like to go first.
Sure. Well, today was an exciting day as our students returned back to school after a long delay. I often think about what Councilman Herman told me once about when we had the flood of 2008 at Bellagio. I showed up a Friday morning we had 2 feet of water in 2 of our wings. And Matt was always amazed that we were relocated 7th and 8th graders at the high school on Monday. But that was dumb luck, that the high school was available for us.
You're supposed to say good leadership.
It was dumb luck. But our teachers and our community have really risen to the occasion. We were not prepared for a pandemic. When we went home last March for spring break, we had no idea it would be almost a year to probably being back full time. And so as Teacher Appreciation Time is coming up, I really think something the council, all of us, recognize in our teachers in the community and what they've been through this last year of having to change how they teach and stuff. And it was a big difference today from the 4 weeks we were on campus in October and November. A lot of our staff is protected because they've had both shots. And I know that wasn't possible without the leadership of our city manager and the mayor and advocating that educators be up on this list and getting them protected. And I know educators across our community really thank your hard work. And also, Casa Grande's own Jesus Ramos is now 15-0. He dominated and knocked out his opponent in the second round on Saturday night. And
Last Saturday.
Last Saturday night on Fox, and I think there are great things ahead for this young man. And he's a great role model for this community. He's well-spoken, he's polite, but he's got a mean left and right hand. So,
Hey Jeff, when is Teacher Appreciation?
Mayor, it's usually the first week in May, I believe.
Okay.
So, but it would really be nice to maybe send out letters to all of our teachers. Some of us visit the schools and thank them. They've been through a lot of tears this last year, I can tell you that.
Make sure you share any activities and events you might be having.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Again, thank you for both of your leadership and making these things happen.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Donna?
You know, I probably in the last week and a half have had more in-person meetings than we have in 6 months. And I can't tell you how wonderful that has been. Just a couple things. I did get to go visit our city court and help plan out the law day that Judge Juarez is doing. I see Holly is here from Main Street. I got to meet with her about some things going on. Larry and I both missed out on the school redistricting committee tonight because they're having their meeting, and I have to give kudos, as Jeff mentioned, the school district. Sitting on this committee and learning where our students are at and where they're not has just been a real eye-opener for me. And so it's amazing the work that our school district is continuing to do, even though, they don't know, where a lot of our students are at. So I just want to give kudos to them. And we had fun doing the photo shoot this week down at the Neon Park. So I feel like we're almost moving back to normal, and I don't want to jinx that, but that's where we're at. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Lisa?
And I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Jeff said as far as, some of the after effects. We all have kind of been in shock for a year and have been plugging away, and there's so many people that are essential workers, especially with the city, and, people that have been working through this whole pandemic. And, I think it's important for us as a city to recognize how it is affecting our employees. I've been watching different specials on, our emergency personnel, and the PTSD that they're facing, and healthcare workers, things that they're seeing and going through daily. So, the mental health issues that our community is facing, which in turn affects our public safety personnel that are going out and, answering calls with mental health issues. And of course, the issues with our students and teachers and things going on with families. There's so much domestic violence, and I'm hoping those numbers aren't real bad here, but of course, when you're watching this, we have to make sure that we're, identifying those issues and doing what we can for our employees, as well as our community. As employers, we need to recognize what our employees are going through and our families are going through. And, I don't want to let our guard down. I know it seems like normal or things are getting better, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I had a situation where I was with a group of people, and there were 3 people, there was 12 people, and there was an outbreak. And the 3 people that didn't get the COVID were 3 of us that were double vaccinated, and then 3 people had COVID really bad already, and everyone else got it. And it was literally like quick. And so I don't want to be the Debbie Downer here that it's not happening, but it is. And you open that bubble just a little bit, and it's there. I'm thankful that my dad wasn't there or my mother-in-law wasn't there, so people did get through it, and there was a couple that had it pretty bad, but this is just 2 weeks ago. So it's not gone, and it's still very contagious, and I just don't want people to let their guards down. We have to still, follow the CDC guidelines to make sure. But I'm happy, I do, feel schools and everything, but we just have to remember it's still there, and have to take those precautions. As the mayor, he shares the numbers with us all the time, and we're not in the green zone yet. We're still in the red zone, and we have to remember that. We're still there. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Matt?
Thank you. I have to follow Lisa, but yes.
The Debbie Downer.
Yeah. And Donna kind of hit on it, but the Main Street organization under leadership of Holly is having a modified street fair every Saturday this month from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the Neon Park and surrounding areas, and also a classic car park, since you can't really have a show, but a classic car parks in front of the Big House Cafe. And they did go through the approval process with the city and got all the CDC guidelines, so they'll be following that. And if you want any more information, I'm sure you can contact Main Street and they will let you know about it. And the Rotary Club is having our 35th annual raffle and auction modified this year, not in person. And $5,000 of first prize, auction things. And I happen to be selling tickets if anyone's interested. So, thank you. That's all I have.
I forgot to get them last time. All right. Mr. Powell?
Jeff, I talked to, I got my picture taken in the sign area, and I knew that you didn't have a shirt yet. Larry has said that one is ordered, but if not, they said they would go ahead and make it look like it, the shirt, the dispatch did. That they could handle it,
Superimpose the logo
Yeah, if
on
you
it.
just had another, right, put the logo on there. So, and Holly, I just want to say I'm glad to see you here tonight, and hope everything is going decent with the downtown. I know everybody is just kind of swamped right now and trying to figure out what directions to go, and she identified a lot of our issues as far as why young people don't come down there. There's just not enough in there, and I think that it was she was very astute when she got the job. And she spoke out and said, "These are some of the issues." So we hopefully we can help you any way we can as a city, and I'm glad to hear about the advertising thing. Last of all, John, you're a heck of a stud, dude. You showed up here, you weren't feeling very good, were you? Had you been sick?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if you'd been ill or not.
He was ill, but not
He's
from that.
been watching us on TV.
Yeah, heart stuff.
Well, I was going to pat you on the back, but.
All right. Bob?
Wanted to congratulate you, Mayor, on the virtual town hall, the COVID information, a lot of good information on that program, and I want to give a shout out to Sun Life. They are very invested and stepped up and really really made my day, hearing the information that they had and the enthusiasm that they have. It took my own mother there the last, last Saturday for her second shot. And they were very professional and very helpful, so I appreciate it.
Where was this, Bob?
Sun Life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and LaTanya's testimony was heartbreaking in a way, but it was encouraging in the other that her immediate family has done well. But my goodness, she's lost several family members to this, and unfortunately, that story is out there many times over. So anyway, it was a very good program, and I appreciated it. That's all I had.
All right, thank you, Bob.
Well, I'm still trying to find out. I shouldn't do this, should I?
Err on the side of caution.
All right. No, I just going to state, I've had all the month of this last month, I've been on the COVID and on quarantine. And now what I don't know is about getting a shot. If I need to wait some or just get a shot or what. I don't know the answer to that. But I had signed up for one with the Pinell Health thing, but they never gave me a call. So, but as I say now that that it's behind me, well, I would love to get a shot. So.
That's a question for your doctor, number one, I would recommend. But I think in general, within, 90 days.
Well, he told me that they used to say 90 days, but you can do it much sooner now. I don't know if that's.
You're saying 2 weeks? 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, Pinell County Health might be a good place to.
Okay. I went in and talked to them, but they didn't get anything done.
Okay. Well, okay, so COVID-19 update, which is usually what I start with. The numbers are coming down. They were down again today. So keep doing what you're doing. We're not quite in the yellow yet. We're still in the red on infections per 100,000 and our infection rate. Hospitalizations are down in the yellow, actually almost in the green, which would mean they would drop below 5. They'd be less than 5%. And so our targets are less than 5% on hospitalizations, less than 5% on positivity, and less than 10 infections per 100,000. Once we reach all those green levels, then I will consider rescinding the proclamation on masks. So that should be our goal. Our goal should be to get there. We're heading there we're heading there pretty fast. I expect that because of the vaccinations and, 12%, over 12% of our population and just within our city has had COVID. So that along with those who have been vaccinated, we're sitting probably at about 25% immunity right now, which is a good number. It's not where we need to be. So we still have a lot of vaccines left to try and get out in people's arms. The city is working with Sun Life to try and set up kind of a max vaccination site. We'll have additional information here probably tomorrow, but I was cleared to let you know that it probably will be Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week at our community rec center between the hours of 11 and 4. Don't just show up. You have to have an appointment. That information on where to get the appointment, you can go to Sun Life. Their website is, so keep an eye on their website. It's, I had it here. It is, well, it's their initials, so it's SL, Sun Life Family Health Center, so center.org. So it's slfhs.org.
C, isn't it? Center?
C, you're right, I'm sorry. Let me repeat that. It's slfhc. Thank you, Lisa. So slfhc.org or the city's website, because we will have a link to them. So either one, whichever is easiest for everybody. There's also other locations that you can find on the county health department's website that have other vaccination opportunities that are out there. Testing is still available at Lencola. We hope that we're going to get additional funding to prop that up for a little while longer. And they just announced that they're going to open up another 50,000 vaccination appointments at the Cardinal Stadium beginning this week. So keep an eye out on you can also go to the county's website to get to that location as well.
Did they tell you what kind of vaccine?
They didn't say what type it was. I know that Pinal County is getting the Moderna vaccine, and I don't know what Maricopa County is getting. The Johnson & Johnson should be here quickly also, and so that'll be another vaccination type of product that will be available. We did do the mayor's COVID roundtable. You can view that online if you missed it. It was a really good, I think, good interaction between people who have had COVID. So it gave you kind of a firsthand view of how it affected their family. And really, LaTanya's story was amazing and very heartfelt, and but yet uplifting too. To Bob's point, she was very positive on how she's come out of it. So, but their family has suffered a lot. So, there are some true life stories out there, and I thought it was interesting. And we'll look at doing that again, potentially maybe with other folks that are not healthcare workers, and try and get the story out there. We did modify the proclamation on events. That was done a week ago, in which now we can begin to look at events. Suggest you send your requests into the city. You have to have a mitigation plan, and if you need an example, give us a call. We'll send you an example of what that mitigation plan might look like. And so we obviously, as we move into better territory here, we'll begin to look at how we open things up. We did post new hours also on the Community Rec Center, so please take a look at that on our website. So we're starting to, again, like I said, try and get back to some, I won't call it normal because I'm not sure what normal is going to be anymore, but we are working hard at that. Lucid just announced this last week. I don't know if everybody saw it or not, but they announced this last week that they announced a merger, and they with Churchill Capital, and they raised $4.4 billion for their program. And I know I've posted a few things out there. Their next phase, phase 2, which goes in front of planning and zoning this week, is another 3 million square feet of facility. They have, call it 1 million square feet out there now. It's actually a little under 1 million square feet. So another project that's 3 times the size of what they have out there today. By year end, 1,600 employees. They've revised their total employee count now to 6,000 employees. Now, not all those will be here in Casa Grande, but most of them will, because they're going to be mostly manufacturing jobs. Some will be engineering in California. There's some warehousing up in Tempe that they're going to have. We also have another facility, if you didn't know it, over at I-8 and I-10, which is right off of Toltec Road. They have about half of that warehouse that's over there. That's where all the the batteries and motors are all put together, and then they're shipped over to the main factory for being put together. Just a shout out really to the elementary school and high school districts. I know that all the teachers have really been pressing to try and get through this, and I think we got everybody vaccinated who wanted to get vaccinated in terms of our teachers. Thanks to Sun Life and their help, so big shout out to them. I have talked to the hospital. They are sitting at about, well, in January they had 95 people with COVID in their ICU units. They were at 170% capacity. Last week when I talked to Brian, they finally were below 20. So huge drop in numbers, very exciting, but again, to Lisa and Donna's point, and one of you made the point, let's not let our guard down. I think it was you, Donna, but let's not let our guard down. STEAM Week is this week also at the high school, so it's actually from the 1st to the 6th. We're going to do a virtual STEAM presentation. It'll be on the city's website, so keep an eye out for that and mark it on your calendar. We'll be doing a proclamation also for the STEAM group, and that we're trying to get all the recordings done and put together, and so it should be a lot of fun, and look forward to that. The Mayor's State of the City, which is again going to be a virtual presentation as well. That's going to be on Wednesday, March 10th from 1 to 3. So keep an eye out for that, mark your calendars. And there were some ADOT restrictions that we had announced, but they actually rescinded them today. That was some closures for the bridge, the Gila River Bridge, and they're postponing it. So, and they're going to do it at night. So if you saw those restrictions, they have been lifted. So, because I know I put out put out some word on that, and I know the city did too on our website. I think that's probably about it. Proclamations, STEAM Fair. Yep, that's enough for me. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight for the City Council meeting, and meeting adjourned.
All right.